fleet world, and work truck world for that matter. It's Kurt Moreland, associate publisher with Utility Fleet Professional, with a special edition of Under the UFP Hood. You know, you may not have heard of the name Old World Industries, but I bet you've heard of peak antifreeze and of DEF products that help your diesel engines run clean. And they recently hosted a NHRA racing event at the historic Joliet Speedway, and were nice enough to invite me as a representative of UFP to be there. While there, I learned a lot about the industry, and I had the opportunity to interview two celebrities. Miss Alex Taylor, who is a media marketing personality, co-host of Hot Rod Garage, and also a representative of the John Force racing team, which races the Peak-sponsored Funny Car, or Jack Beckman, I should say, also known as Fast Jack Beckman. And I'd like you to listen in on these interviews. We talk a little bit about shop maintenance, a little bit about maintaining the vehicles. And if you think your fleet is difficult to maintain, get a load of what it's like to maintain a dragster, an NHR race car. And if you've never been to an NHR event, drag strip before, you got to check it out. I was able to stand, thanks to Old World Industries and Peak Products, I was able to stand right kitty corner behind the cars as they left. And the ground shook, my body shook, the air vibrated. It was unlike an experience I've ever had in my life. And again, want to thank the great folks at Old World Industries and Peak Antifreeze and all the Peak products for making this opportunity available to us. So enjoy the interviews, and hey, it's racing season. Enjoy. I'm here at the Peak event at Route 66, and I'm here with Jack Beckman. He drives for John Force. You were talking a little bit about what does it take to maintain some of these dragsters so that our shop maintenance people can appreciate the expense of what goes in.
So if you've never been to a drag race, obviously the way the cars run is mind-blowing. You go in the stands, you sit down, you watch these things go 0 to 340 miles an hour in 3.8 seconds. And it's something that you can't quite put into words, but you're only seeing half the show because the rest of it's back in the pits. So when I make a run, throw the parachute, slow the car down, turn off the track, and hop out, we're just getting started. We got to get this thing prepped for the second round. And the thing is, when you make 12,000 horsepower, it eats up parts. So when we towed that car back to the pits, and just picture that as the car pulls into the pits, you hit go on your stopwatch, the body will come off the car, get carried to the front, go on a cart, get rolled out of the way. Hydraulic jack stands go into the car, it gets lifted up into the air. Drain plug comes out, 16 quarts of oil start to drain. At that point, you've got 3 people at the top end of the car. One is unbolting the intake manifold, supercharger, and injector assembly all as one. And the other 2 are taking all 16 spark plugs out. There's 2 per cylinder, taking the valve covers off, and they're starting to loosen head bolts. At this point in time, the oil's drained. The bottom end guys get a dive under there, zip loose all the oil pan bolts, drop the oil pan. About this time, the injector, supercharger, intake manifolds come off the car. Each cylinder heads come off the car. And the guy that's underneath now is going to zip loose all the rod bolts, and he's going to knock all 8 rods and pistons out the top of the engine. All this time while this was going on, the clutch guy who is wearing welding gloves is taking 800 debris clutch discs out of the car. He's going to remove the drive shaft, the reverser, the clutch cannon, the bell housing, and then all 6 clutch discs, 5 steel floaters. Flywheel will come off the car to get remachined. Clutch hat comes off the car to get remachined. And about this time, you're now got a bare block with the camshaft in it. And now we start putting it back together. So All fresh parts go back in that thing. If we're going to change compression ratio, the crew chiefs will make a head gasket thickness call. And once we put everything back together, I get to crawl back in and we get to warm it up. On race day, our pace is about 36 minutes from the time that car rolls into the pit spot till the time we're lighting it up for the next run. It's mind-blowing.
And tell me a little bit about how much you guys spend on tires. Like, how much does a tire go for on?
Well, the slicks on these things are $900 each. And if we're chunking them because it's a cool racetrack with a lot of glue on it, sometimes they're done after one run. But our average life expectancy is 4 to 7 runs out of a set of slicks. So it's $1,800. You do the math on that, it gets pricey. Crankshafts are $5,400. We get 6 to 10 runs out of those. Pistons are $47. We get 1 to 3 runs out of those. Rods are $140. We get 2 to 6 runs out of those. And you just keep adding the cost up. Spark plugs are $14 each, and we get 1 run out of them. And we run 16 of them every run. Fresh oil every run. 14 gallons of nitro per run, plus 5 more gallons on the warm-up.
And what type of fuel do these cars take?
They're nitromethane, and the limit is 90% max. So the rest of it's going to be methyl alcohol or methanol. So you're running a little bit of alcohol and a whole lot of nitro.
Wow, that's really cool. Well, Jack, thank you so much
For
being our guest here on Under the UFP Hood. And definitely want to thank World, which produces Peak as the sponsor. And it was a fantastic interview. We have a very special guest here, Miss Alex Taylor, co-host of Hot Rod Garage. She also started her own business in college. And it's true you were a drag racer at 26 years old?
I actually started drag racing at 16, so I am going on 11 years now. I'm 27, so yeah, drag racing is my background and what I keep doing now, and yeah. So,
what led you to be a drag racer? What did you see that really intrigued you?
So I grew up around automotive. My dad and mom, they built street rods and street cars. And then I was in the shop from literally a couple weeks old. So just like the building, the creating, like that kind of stuff, that's in the blood. As cliche as it sounds, it is. And then when I was probably 11 or 12, my dad started getting it back into racing, but nostalgia, gasser type stuff. But what really made me want to do like the type of racing we're doing, drag and drive racing, which is a different category of drag racing, is.
Yeah, and by the way, I should have mentioned in the introduction that we're at an Old World Industries peak event, drag racing in Joliet at the drag strip. So that's the noise in the background, right?
Yeah. So that's all the good noise. But yeah, so no, just growing up around it, and then my dad started getting back into nostalgia racing, and then I do drag and drive events. Hot Rod Magazine's the one that originally started those events, and my dad traded one of the cars he built for the one that won the race in 2007. I fell in love with it, and we built my first car when I was 16. So, and I just found a way to make it my career from there. So.
Okay, so I'm going to ask you, what's your favorite nostalgic car? I'm going to tell you mine is the Dodge Challenger.
Nice. All right. As far as like true, like if I was thinking nostalgia, like gasser type stuff, I'm partial. Like we love all the Stonewoods and Cook stuff. The 41 Willies, like the early type nostalgia stuff, super cool. But if we're just talking muscle car, like, I don't know, 68 Camaro I'm partial to. I don't know, there's so many good choices there.
That sounds good. Okay, so we're headed into summer, and with all the experience you have, do you have any kind of tips for fleet managers as the dragsters take off again? Do you have any tips for fleet managers as they head into summer, things they can do to help reduce overheating?
Yeah, so obviously with my background, not necessarily a fleet manager here, but we do have a fleet of our own cars at the shop that we do have to keep going. And that ranges from everyday daily drivers to, for us, we have a 3,000 horsepower 55 Chevy. So quite the range of a fleet. But some tips and tricks there is check your coolant, antifreeze, make sure that you've got the right levels, make sure you're topped off, good to go. And as far as like going in the summer, other things that I like to do is, and I'm sure you guys do as well, I am an avid user and a big fan of washer fluid. And when we run through those bug storms in the summer, that always is not so fun. So top off with your Peak washer fluid and get the summer kind that knocks the bugs right off. But that's some of our things. And then obviously going into different seasons, there's other tips there.
Is there any type of different fuel that or gasoline blend that you can use in the summer versus other type of seasons?
Yeah, so I know for what we do, and where we're located, we don't obviously that's not something that we're actively thinking about because the gas stations that we go to blend accordingly. But as far as for our diesel consumption for our diesel vehicles, going into your winter months, obviously there's winter blends there. We always add, additives as well to make sure that we're not getting jelly fuel. But in the summer, not something that we're actively working on, but obviously gas stations know how to blend that.
Look at that. You're getting a round of applause for your podcast.
I don't think that was, I don't think that answer got the round of applause, but we'll go with it.
Yeah. So now you're helping rebuild the Peak wagon. Is a station wagon?
Yeah.
Tell us about that.
Yeah, so I co-hosted a TV show called Hot Rod Garage that was on Motor Trend, and the show Motor Trend as a whole, the studio no longer exists, but the last car that we finished on the show was Peak's 63 Bel Air Wagon. Put a Roadster Shop chassis under it, small block Chevy from Blueprint, all the good Holley controllers, and very comfortable cruiser now, and it got all the rework. And we took it on a nice 200-300 mile cruise. And it's currently here at the race on display. So
how long did it take you to do that? Or how long will it take you to do that?
Well, the whole premise of the episode that we did was there's two extreme versions of building cars. Obviously, there's stuff in the middle, but it's the guy that does it himself. And that's something where we normally fall more into, where you're building just to build and creating just to create, even if buying it is easier. And then on the flip side of that, there's the building it or buying it, from a catalog and piecing it together. And neither answer is right, but there is two extremes. And so the premise behind the Peak wagon was to how nice of a car can we make in a short period of time? And that's more of a catalog build. So for us, honestly, round total, it was a 2-month deal, probably on and off. We didn't have that much time with it on Hot Rod Garage. It's one of the very few cars that we did send to a shop to be finished off. But theoretically, if you had a true fit Roadster Shop chassis and engine and you had other stuff prep, I don't know, it all depends on how fast you were. If you were on it for 7 days, you might could do it in 7 days. If it was truly a bolt-in, and that depends on the state of your vehicle. But honestly, for most people, it's going to be, 4 or 5 months. It just depends. It depends at the rate you work. But obviously, a bolt-in thing is a lot quicker. So.
Wow, that's a lot more time. That's a big investment of time. Okay, I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. I always like to ask a celebrity encounter story. But you know what? I'm going to ask you, who's your favorite race car driver? And it can be from NASCAR. It could be from Indy. You can list a couple if you want.
Oh, man. Okay. That's a really, really hard question.
And I know the first one you'd say probably is your dad. But
no, my dad actually doesn't race too much anymore. He's one of my favorite people. But we have our team where he does a lot of the building and I do a lot of the driving. But as far as favorite drivers, you know what, let's go with some of it. I'm not, I don't get to watch a ton of racing. I'm more involved in it, but let's go on the good side of stuff here. We're sitting in the Peak booth, so let's go with Fast Jack Beckman and Brittany Force and John Force, of course, our Peak Squad family, Austin Prock. But as far as old school drivers, Barb Hamilton was an inspiration for me. You've got Jessie Combs. I mean, she was always a huge inspiration. And then, I think one that is more recent that is probably missed by a lot is Lizzie Moosey. So yeah, there's just so many people that are great, but that's hard to pick. It's hard to pick a favorite when you're actively in it because these people that you become to know seem like normal everyday people to you. You're surrounded by it, but there's a lot of talent out there.
have you been to the SEMA show? Do you go to the SEMA show in Vegas?
Go to the SEMA show every year. For the last 2 years, I've hosted the gala, however you want to say it, for SEMA. So SEMA's a great organization, and they're great to work with, and the show is amazing. But what SEMA's doing behind the scenes for our industry is something I've had the chance to go to Capitol Hill with SEMA and talk to our policymakers. And SEMA is so much more than a show. I mean, they have a legal team that's keeping us doing what we all love to do.
And last question, what are you working on now? Can you reveal any projects that you're working on now, or is it going to stay in media?
So currently I'm finishing a shop. Honestly, I have an 8,000 square foot shop that I'm rebuilding, fixing up. And right now I just bought 4 cars in the last couple months, 72 Nova, 32 Roadster, 34 two-door sedan, 4 two-door sedan, and what else did I buy? 55 Plymouth Savoy. So right now I'm not active. We're working on the 34, mainly working on my shop, working on races, and shipping a car to Sweden to race in July. So eventually we're going to have more project cars working, maybe another drag car. We've discussed it, another 55 Chevy, but nothing solidified on that at the moment.
Wow, your plate is super full. Do you ever trade tips with Jay Leno? You ever bump into Jay Leno?
I only ran into Jay Leno once, and it was one of the most embarrassing things I could have done. I was helping unveil the Demon 170 when Dodge announced that, and they flew it in with the helicopter. And Jay Leno was getting ready to talk, and I was getting ready to toss it to him. And they said something about like the White Ghost or something, talking about one of the car names, or Gray Ghost, I can't remember. And I said, and up next, our ghost, Jay Leno, instead of guest. Super awkward. I felt really embarrassed. I went up and introduced myself after, and he didn't even hear it, and I don't even think he would remember the story. So that's my only encounter I had with him.
That's fantastic. Well, again, this is Kurt with Utility Fleet Professional. Want to thank our celebrity guest, Miss Alex Taylor, for being with us. And everybody drive safe out there.
The views, information, and opinions expressed during this podcast are solely those of the individuals involved and do not necessarily represent those of Utility Business Media and its employees. It is strongly recommended that you discuss any actions or policy changes with your company management prior to implementation.